What's up, everybody? Welcome to System Crafters Live. I'm David Wilson. We're back again with another live stream where we get together as a community and talk about whatever topic I've come up with. And this week is no exception. Let me refresh this overlay here. Refresh. There we go. Okay. Am I already ruining the surprise? Not really a surprise, but I'm sure people will be very pleased. So, once again, I apologize for the lateness. It's just one of those days. You know, we had Thanksgiving yesterday. It was very busy. You know, it was busy in the lead up to that because you have to get prepared for Thanksgiving. And then at the last minute, had some issues to deal with for my kid's school that came up like right at the end of the day. So that was a lot of fun. But now we're back. We're here. I'm late. It's almost 30 minutes late. Sorry about that. If anybody's in the chat, let me know, because there we go. Thanks, Alejandro. Nice to see you, Alejandro. Let me get the screen up on the other, or the chat up on the other side too, because I don't know what's going on YouTube. Where are we? There we are. Okay. Totally professional operation here. So hi, how are you? Ashra says, did I just see Claude? No, you did not. You're going to pretend you didn't see that. I'm kidding. Okay. Mr. Claude will make an appearance. Okay, there we go. We got YouTube chat up on the other side here. Okay, so I'll say hello to the people who are here so far. Hello to Rob Perez over on the YouTube side, and hello to Alejandro, Ashraz, Nikolaus, and Dave, and Artie. And I'm not going to mention the other person that has an L as the starting character of their name because they always cause trouble. It probably won't be any better today. So let me get the show notes stuff started up here because kind of need those things. Treve says, I'm here waiting for my personalized hello. You didn't pay for the personalized hello package there, buddy. So you're not getting a personalized hello, except for me saying your name wrong. Hello to Daphne. Thanks for giving thanks for Odysseus landing at Lithos Plymouth, okay. Alejandro says, what is not controversial about Mesche? What do you mean, what is not controversial? I mean, by default, it's not that controversial. It's just a crappy scheme implementation. But I'm sure I'm going to make some people cry today with what I do, so it should be pretty fun. Where's the show notes? Projects, sites. I got to remember how I do all my stuff every week. Content, live streams. There we go. Let's just steal this one. What would Trev think is controversial about Mesche if they only were here? Trev is here. But are we going to pretend that Trev's not here today? That'd be pretty funny, actually. Let's just let Trev stew in the chat while we ignore him. That'd be great. Night HK says, I spent $100 a day in preparation for this stream. 100? Why would you bother doing something like that? All right, rebooting Mesche the controversial way. Clickbait. Not really, though, because probably, yeah, we'll see. Mosh says, hey, all, one of the benefits, I'm traveling now in a decent time zone for streams. Which time zone is that? Because it's not a decent time zone for me. I mean, the one that I'm in. cost of API usage in Emacs and not a subscription. For which, Claude? It's so sad about Trev. We've missed them since their unfortunate accident. What did he do? Did he like run Geeks Pull and it overheated his computer and set fire to his office or something? Is that what happened? Because it is likely. Speaking of which, not really Geeks related, but I finally got around to responding to framework computer support. And they're sending me a new battery for my laptop, which is great because I've been sitting here with it plugged in nonstop and not able to unplug it for 3 months. No Claude, no Max, just API usage. Got it. So yes, I'm glad that I will be able to have a laptop that is mobile again and not just plugged in the whole time. Mosh says normally it's Sydney. Yes, that is quite a different time zone for sure. 100 USD a day for what? Are you making that many calls? That just seems like excessive, dude. I paid $100 for a month. 100 a day is way too much. Unless you're like, you know, running some top tier AI scams or something. Give me a second. Had to untether myself from this headphone situation. All right. So, news items. Somebody tell me the news. No Good Nick says the other chat messages are from IRC. That's correct. If you go to irc.libra.chat and the System Crafters live chat room, you will be on the screen. Yeah, Restream doesn't do IRC. Alejandro says, will the controversy be AI related? It will be entirely AI related. Yes. Eventually, we'll have all the messages synced across everything, but, you know, I keep saying that, and it never happens. News. Give me 1 second, because I gotta actually go do the thing before I can say it. Somebody else give me, yes, someone in the Twitch chat knows what I'm talking about. Let me go to another screen real quick. I gotta do something. Where is it? Where is it? I have to edit something. Click. Just click it. There it is. Just click it. Cool. Am I looking for Sasha's news? No, I'm literally at the present moment setting up a Black Friday discount for my scheme course because this is the time that I decided to do that. Because I'm excellent at self-promotion, as you can tell. I'm really good at it. All right, systemcrafters.store. Nah, I don't want to do that. Actually, okay. Let's start with systemcrafters.net and we'll go to the store. So, Black Friday, everyone's favorite consumerist holiday, because what's more important than, you know, meeting with your family on Thanksgiving and having a nice meal than, you know, the next day, which is when everybody just goes crazy trying to spend all their money that they made over the year. So, yes, I'm going to participate in this by saying that I have a Black Friday discount for my hands-on Guile Scheme for Beginners course, which I've been talking about for a while. Did it last year. This is a pre-recorded version of it, which expands upon the content from the live versions we did last year. And people told me it's good. I mean, I think it's okay. If you are interested in looking at that, I basically knocked $50 off the price. So if you go down to the bottom and click here to register, then it takes you to the store page, and there it is. So, yes, if you want to learn Guile Scheme from me, then you can check out this course. And I'm going to put that in the show notes so that folks can get the link to that. So, Black Friday discount. I feel so sleazy saying this. 50 USD off, hands-on Guile Scheme for Beginners. There you go. Have at it. Thank you, Ashra, systemcrafters.store. Kite says, is it a video or do you give the lessons live? It's pre-recorded, but it is actually like, you know, me making, it's basically a bunch of System Crafters videos, effectively, that are only available in the course. You don't need it though, Akites, because you already know Guile's scheme, so there's no point for you to take it. Daphne says, oh, I got paid today. Damn, I nearly forgot. Actually paid by my employer, not mysterious money from someone I've never heard of landing in my bank account. I would love it if that happened to me, just mysterious money landing in my bank account, but probably it's not such a good thing. We will today craft an AI that will act as a stand-in of David when you have questions. Well, that probably would be a better thing to do because it would actually respond. Alejandro says, AI and YouTube, AI in my teaching job, AI and creative content platforms, and AI and crafting. Today I'm so tired about AI. Yes, well, you know, it's entertaining sometimes. Thank you, Kites. Appreciate it. Okay, I wish it was easy for me to pull up the stupid videos that I made, the AI slop videos I made. I just don't feel like doing that right now. Yeah or no? Okay, let's go. So, any other news? What's going on in the world right now? I think I saw a cool blog post show up today on Fediverse. Give me one moment, because I gotta switch my stupid keyboard back to the right screen again. There we go. Fostodon. Reboosted it, reposted it, whatever you call that. So Daphne posted a blog post about the work she's doing on an extensible pattern matcher for Scheme. I haven't actually looked into this very much, but it sounds pretty awesome. Like basically being able to make an extensible version of the match syntax. So I think people who are interested in Scheme should check out this post because there's a lot of deep stuff going on in there. I'll have to read it myself this weekend. Check out. What else is going on in the world, people? What's happening? Daphne says, the wonderful thing about Scheme is that Scheme is, is this a song? Scheme is a wonderful thing. Complex algorithmic ideas are expressed in simple strings. Its clear semantics and lack of pedantics helps make programs run. But the most wonderful thing about Scheme is that programming in it is fun. Programming in it is fun. Programming in it is fun. I have to say it with a more menacing affect for the last line, for the refrain. And Kai says, I read half the blog post and I didn't understand anything. I probably won't either, but hey, you know, still, you got to share, you know, interesting things that you see on the internet. You have to sing that like the wonderful thing about Tiggers. Well, see, that's the thing. Like my kids aren't into Winnie the Pooh, so I don't think I've heard that song in probably, how old am I? Probably 37 years. I don't know. Is there massive lag between the chat and stream again? That's because of YouTube. Go on Twitch chat. Thank you, Dave, for giving me more news to put in. Thank you. I forgot to mention this post. Actually, let me put it on the other screen because I can't copy and paste between. All right, Sprightly.Institute. Rob says, it looks like writing code is becoming obsolete. We will be paid for being a reviewer and AI best friend. Yes, well, I will say, working somewhere where AI is used by me and by other people, sometimes reviewing PRs ends up being more onerous than it used to be. Because, you know, AI is pretty prodigious when it comes to pooping out scripts and other codes. So there's a lot of things that you have to read line by line and try to make sure it doesn't make a huge mess. News. Ashra says, I could probably give a half-hour rant about AI usage at my company, and that's before I rant about AI usage in code. Uh-oh. Are people making AI spreadsheets and presentations that are really bad? Goblin share, secure peer-to-peer file sharing with goblins. Is that the one? No. Is it? So the URL you gave me, Dave, is different than the one I'm seeing. Oh, it's because there's 2 posts I haven't seen. Okay, so both these need to be mentioned, apparently, because I missed this one last week. All right, so one post by Juliana about Goblin share, secure peer-to-peer file sharing with goblins. So instead of participating in the Autumn Lisp Game Jam, Sprightly decided to give up, just like me, and do something else instead. Spent the week of November writing Goblin share, secure peer-to-peer file sharing utility using Guile port of Magink. What is that? Magnet URIs. Oh, that's cool. Okay, got it. That makes sense. It's Magnet. Where's my cursor? Where's my mouse? There it is. They were making AI Jira tickets. No, that doesn't sound good at all. Senan says, I'm damned, I hate reviewing code. Yeah, it's not the funnest thing, the most fun thing. Who uses cursor? Yes, watch at 2x speed and listen to me ramble and stumble in my words. Okay, anyway, so I'm not going to go through this because we don't have a whole lot of time because I wasted it all being late. So I'll just put these links in the show notes so that people can go check out these latest Sprightly posts. And Dave also says that Christine just gave a keynote talk yesterday at a conference in Amsterdam. Replay is available at the link that he gave there. Let me see if I can find that. Check out the latest in Sprightly Institute news. Institute. Next. Hey. All right. Indent. Thank you. Spooey 25. We can change the defaults. Is that it? Boom. And there's a screenshot of Dave's game. All right, cool. Please, org mode. What's this? Spooey 25. All right, whatever it is. Cool. Check that out too. I will check it out. Thank you, Dave. I appreciate it. Now I feel like there's actually some news to be mentioned here to make up for me not actually doing my job. So thank you for all of you who've contributed things to the news this week. Ashra says, I use AI to have my code reviewed by it before I give it to review to other humans. That's working nicely. I don't waste a colleague's time by having them point something out that an LLM can point out. Yes, we're having AI write code that AIs review. And it does actually work. I don't know. We're using Code Rabbit and Cursor in various different places. And it's a little bit annoying, actually, because it's sometimes more pedantic than a senior engineer would be. I have not seen the AI drama at OCaml, Akites. Thank you, Dave. Daphne says, can we elect Dave Thompson as a new David? Yes, I need a vacation. So Dave, if you want to take over the System Crafter streams, please feel free. Please feel free. All right, let's get into it. So why am I clickbaiting? Why am I clickbaiting? Well, I don't know. You know, I've been using AI for a little bit now. I've gotten kind of comfortable with the whole workflow of it. And Anthropic just came out with a new Opus 4.5 model. And I'm just thinking like, all right, I want to see if this thing is any good. And I thought maybe the best kind of non-trivial thing I could throw at it is to try to get it to implement R7RS Small to make a scheme implementation, but with the parameters that I want. Basically implementing some of the ideas that I had for Mesche. Now, like 2 weeks ago, I think, or whenever that was, we did a stream where I was trying pitifully to write an IRC client implementation in Janet. The thing I like about Janet is that it is it's a Lisp that's meant to be embedded in C programs. It's also meant to be sort of used to make standalone programs, and has a lot of other really kind of useful, convenient features. But as you saw on the stream, I'm not very familiar with Janet or comfortable with the language, so I was stumbling around a lot. And I kind of wish I had the same functionality with Scheme. Now, obviously, we looked at Chibi Scheme last week, and you can do that because Chibi can be embedded into an application pretty easily. Obviously, Guile can too, but Guile is a much bigger thing, and it's not very easy to make a standalone app that you can just hand to somebody. With Chibi, you can. It's not necessarily something that is like a mainline scenario that just works out of the box. You can do it. You just have to set up the compiler stuff the right way. But what if I made my own Scheme implementation that was meant for making standalone applications? With or without a C compiler. I mean, with a C compiler at first, but then later maybe not. And why? Well, maybe just to make my own tools and applications that I want to distribute to other people, games specifically, things of that nature, just for fun, because I really enjoyed writing my own Scheme implementation, which wasn't really a perfect Scheme implementation, but it was good enough. A couple years ago, and I called it Mesche, which is basically just Scheme with the characters shifted by 2. You can actually check that out on Codeberg at codeberg.org/mesh/mesh. I haven't really touched this in a while. It was like 2 years since I committed anything, and the last thing I did was like trying to get started on a bootstrapping compiler for self-hosting, and I made a lot of progress here, but I never merged it. So I did a lot of work on that myself. I used the book Crafting Interpreters as my inspiration on how to do that, which is a really cool book if you have any interest at all in writing a compiler to a bytecode interpreter for a dynamic language, or any kind of language really, because I didn't follow what the book said to do. He's writing some kind of like Ruby-like language in this book. I just wrote a Scheme implementation instead. And I had a ton of fun doing it. And I kind of got bit by the compiler bug. And I realized that it's a kind of project that gets me a little bit too sucked in, just based on the way that I'm wired. And I couldn't spend a whole lot of time working on it because otherwise I would do nothing else. So I had to shelve that project for a while. But I always kind of come back to the idea of having a Scheme implementation that is more to my own personal preferences and the way that I want to use it. So why am I saying all this? Well, to go back to the point of trying to throw that task to Claude Code via Opus 4.5, or maybe the reverse is true. Throw it at Opus 4.5 via Claude Code and see how far I can get. And I actually started doing that this morning, and I kind of let it just go and do its own thing pretty much all day to see how far it can get. And it turns out it could get pretty far. We'll take a look at the code and see whether we think it's terrible or not, and the implementation itself. And maybe we'll try to push it a little bit further and see what else it can implement in the time allotted. But I know AI is a controversial topic, and people have a lot of strong feelings about it. I don't really have as strong feelings about it, even though I do understand the reluctance people have to engage with AI stuff. I just kind of see it as a tool, and if it can make things a bit faster for me on some of the things I want to accomplish that I don't have time to accomplish, it could be kind of useful. So I'm evaluating it for being able to revive the Mesche project, just for things I want to do. Now, it's perfectly reasonable to ask, well, why would you bother having AI write a Scheme implementation for you and then not just use AI to write all the code that you would write for the Scheme implementation? Well, I don't want to do that because I enjoy writing code. I enjoy doing things like game jams and making tools. So my intention is to have AI make the Scheme implementation, but then write the code that I make things with, write the code for my projects using the implementation, but write it myself, right? So like doing game jams and things of that nature. So I know it's kind of weird, but in the end, I have to keep myself entertained somehow. See ya, guys. All right. So that's me justifying myself. Now let's talk about the actual code. And before we talk about the code itself, let's talk about what I actually wanted to do. So let me jump into code mesh next. So I have a full repository here, and R7RS says, for giggles, ask Gemma31B who David Wilson is. It nailed the first sentence and then pivoted into absolute nonsense. Well, that probably is accurate because it is nonsense. So there is a specification file in here that I had. So the way I started this is I went to the Claude website, okay? And through Opus 4.5, I had a conversation with Claude, basically saying what I wanted to accomplish by doing this, like what features I wanted. And then we kind of worked together to create a markdown file that describes the overall design of what we're trying to accomplish, and also the sort of set of phases of development to make it work. I don't think that anybody could just go do this and have it turn out successful. It's not a brag or anything. I'm just saying, like, I have experience already writing a scheme implementation like this, so I kind of know what to expect. Now there's a line that we will cross at some point where I don't know what to expect anymore, because I haven't done like a lot of deep work on compiler optimizations and whatnot, but I can kind of tell where it's going off track and I can kind of coach it. So the result is probably better than what it would be if some random person decided they wanted to say to Claude to write a scheme implementation. So just saying that up front. Anyway, overview and goals. Mesh is a practical scheme implementation designed for building standalone applications and games that can easily be distributed to end users. It prioritizes developer experience, debuggability, and cross-platform deployment over academic purity or maximal compliance, which is basically the original vision for Mesh itself. It's basically like, you know, have a scheme that is really comfortable for people to write tools in, because the idea is that people would write their own stuff, like basically like an Emacs user would do. Like an Emacs user would probably write their own packages because they've gotten comfortable enough with the environment to do that. Mesh would be another tool where it's something that you would write scripts and applications with, and possibly other projects like games. So kind of the idea that I had in mind. R7RS says, does cross-platform include Windows? It will. It will. The idea, so because I want to ship games with this, obviously you have to support Linux, Windows, and Mac OS at the very least. Web also via Emscripten, which I know is possible because Mesh currently, the one that I hand wrote, does work on Emscripten. So it is definitely possible to do that. Mesh exists to solve a specific problem. You want to write an application or game in Scheme, give it to someone who's never heard of Scheme. They should be able to run it without installing anything. The binary should be small, start fast, and work reliably. Secondary to this, Mesh should be a pleasure to develop with. Replicate experience should rival common Lisp implementations, which is a big thing to say, but it'd be nice, right? It'd be nice if that were the case, because it's not necessarily the best experience with Guile sometimes. In fact, it could be kind of frustrating. So it'd be nice to have more of a common Lisp tier experience. Now, I will say one of the best experiences I've had debugging in Scheme was Gambit Scheme, because it actually had the ability to jump between continuations and deal with the various continuations that are kind of in flight. Had some pretty nice features, so I'm trying to take some inspiration from that as well. Let's see, blah, blah, blah. 9 goals, maximal R7RS compliance at the expense of practicality. Yes. Competition with production systems like Shea Scheme on raw performance. Now, I didn't write this. Claude wrote this. Support for every Surfy in existence. Yes, we're not doing that. Academic research into language implementation. We're not doing that either, because there's no need to, because we're really just using Scheme because it's straightforward. All right, so we're not doing the full numeric tower. We're doing fixed nums, flow nums, big nums. But we're not doing rational or complex numbers, okay? We're going to use UTF-8 at some point. It's not there yet. Let's see. We're going to support syntax rules, obviously, but we're going to add syntax case in match. Now, already I have syntax rules in match. Not 100% perfect, but it is in there. You'll see. Let's see. Define library syntax we have. Library support we have. And when I say we have, it's already implemented because Claude did it today. Precompiled modules we don't have, but the interesting thing there is that we will try to add CPS transformations, continuation passing style, compiler transforms. Basically makes it easier to implement continuations and a lot of other interesting things. And also lots of interesting compiler optimizations are made possible through CPS transforms. So I think that should be pretty interesting. I can't actually do that myself because I'm not an expert in implementing compilers, but I'm kind of curious to see what AI will do with that. If it is any good in the end. It might be terrible, but whatever. Standard libraries will have the basic stuff that's part of R7RS, but also some convenience libraries that feel pretty familiar to people who are coming from other environments, because the idea is that, you know, you should be able to pick this up and start using it without being a scheme expert, you know, like, or an expert in the R7RS specification or earlier specifications. There will be a condition system that has like condition and restart, sort of like common Lisp, because that helps with the debugging experience, being able to kind of stop at a certain point and restart. That's obviously not something that's part of Scheme by default. It's kind of like an extension on top. It also has like the basic exceptions from R7RS. Yes, Benoit, it's about Mesh, but it's about me using AI to start writing Mesh again, which is the controversial part. All right, so what else? Concurrency. Yeah, we're going to do basically like have a built-in implementation of something like fibers where there are concurrent threads of execution. And I say concurrent because I don't mean parallel necessarily. I just mean, you know, concurrency. Cooperatively scheduled threads, light threads, or what do you call it? Lightweight threads, green threads. Using yield points. Channel implementation. Then the ability to yield in something like a game loop where you need to stop at a certain point to you know, respond to REPL evaluations, things of that nature. And it's got all kinds of stuff in here, like the way that the bytecode is oriented, the runtime data structures, got all kinds of stuff. It just pooped out all this stuff on its own based on what I told it. I don't know if it had looked at the mesh code before at some point, like when it had been trained, but some of the stuff that it put in here, and also some of the ways that it was naming the APIs in the code base, it looked a lot like what I had done before. So I don't know exactly what's going on there, but it might be inspired by the original code directly. Let's see, source maps, yeah, blah, blah, blah. Compiler architecture, pretty standard stuff. Reader design, macro expander design. I'm trying to think if there's anything else interesting to mention in here. But if you read through this, it's pretty comprehensive for being fairly, you know, straightforward. Runtime system. Oh, and one thing I wanted it to do, which I told it specifically I wanted to do, is to use Andy Wingo's Whip It library for garbage collection. Because why write a garbage collector whenever you can just use Whip It, which Andy has spent like the last, how long? Like a year, 2 years developing, maybe longer than that. The idea of Whip It is that you're supposed to just be able to like drop the code into your repository and wire it up to your project and start using it for garbage collection, which is what I'm gonna do. I've already got it in there as part of the build, but what I didn't realize until later is that Claude was just not wiring up GC at all. It's just using malloc everywhere. I don't know what the F it decided to do that for. Kind of weird, but eventually GC will be wired up via Whip It, which I think would be pretty cool. Pretty standard stuff. Kama says, what Linux distro do you use? Windows XP. I'm using GNU Geeks. Can we call it GNU Geeks anymore? Is it just Geeks now? Should be. All right. Let's see. Blah, blah, blah. I mean, this is kind of just like inside baseball. If you read this and you've written a bytecode interpreter and compiler that compiles the bytecode before you look at this and you're like, okay, yeah, this all makes sense. If you haven't, you should read this and kind of take a look at what it takes to write such a thing. We will have undelimited and delimited continuations because you need that. Obviously, tail call optimization, which is pretty standard. Foreign function interface probably will end up being a lot like what you see from Chibi. There are other FFI interfaces like the one in Guile. There's the one in Gambit. And when I say foreign function interface, I basically mean how you tell the scheme implementation how to call into C libraries, and also how the memory is laid out for structures or structs and other data types. So this is the speculative declaration format that it came up with for that, which I think it looks, decent by default. Probably just, yeah, it's a declarative syntax, literal syntax that will produce some code in the end. It will probably be precompiled to C stubs for now and not a runtime FFI, because that's harder to do cross-platform. LeftPat says, Windows XP, that would at least be more stable than Geeks. I don't know, man. Even still, after so many years, I don't think XP is that stable. All right. What else? I don't want to talk about this forever. Async REPL network protocol. Yeah, it needs to have like an NREPL type thing. Whatever. Okay, that's enough. So what's been done so far? Well, if you look at the Claude.md file, which it just keeps dumping things into, you can see a lot of things that have been done. Basically setting up the entire project, the internal representation of the VM, all of the data types that are needed, the bytecode interpreter itself, and we're going for a self-hosting bootstrapping compiler design where the stage 0 compiler is written in C and compiles a subset of the Scheme language, which is pretty possible just based on the way that Scheme is designed. Like, you can express a lot of higher level things in Scheme using lower level constructs. Like, for instance, let star is just a bunch of nested lets, but let itself is also oftentimes just a lambda that's evaluated immediately. So it is possible to write a Scheme compiler that targets a very reduced or scoped down subset of R7RS Scheme, and then have the basic syntax expander, or like the core stuff that you need just to get the thing off the ground, written in Scheme, load that up in a prelude file, and then write an actual Scheme-based compiler on top of that. So for the next compiler stage. So we're trying to do that. It's actually started that work now. Like the last part of the day when I was kind of poking around with this, it has started to write the bootstrapping part for the compiler, which is cool. We might actually kind of continue that work on the stream. So compiler is there, the runtime is there. We've got a lot of stuff that you kind of need, like symbol interning, closures with variable capture, which is obviously super necessary for Scheme. Macros are sort of in there. They work. Define library is in there. Loading modules from files is in there. And we're basically to the end of this phase 2. Now, I didn't show you the phases in the document, but there is development phases somewhere in here. Phase 1, minimal working Scheme interpreter. That's done. It works. Macros and modules is phase 2, is macro system and module support. And LeftPat says phase 3 question mark, phase 4 profit, just like the old meme on Slashdot, which I'm sure half the audience here has never heard of before. Maybe most of you have heard of it. I don't know. It depends on how young some of you are. Phase 3, continuations and concurrency, which to me is like the most exciting part of this whole thing. Well, aside from self-hosting. But I'm curious to see how well it does this. I don't know if we'll do that now. It's based on the underpants gnomes of South Park. Well, South Park also is old, so what can I say? So yeah, cool. That's Oh, what's phase? Phase 3 is continuations and concurrency. Phase 4 is error handling and debugging. So the actual debugging experience, right? That's not as exciting, but actually is pretty necessary. Editor integration with Emacs also would be a thing. Phase 5, FFI and system interface. So actually being able to interact with the system, I/O, process management, FFI to C libraries. At that point, we could start doing some interesting things with it. Maybe next Friday we'd be able to do that, because I would imagine that by then the whole thing will be written. But anyway, yeah, where's Summer? We haven't seen Summer since the summer, I think. Isn't that right? I'm never around those. What can I say? Phase 6 build system. Complete build tooling. Yes. Phase 7 standard library and polish. I haven't looked at all these phases yet, apparently. Anyway, the full end-to-end thing is kind of specced out in here, which is cool. And we're at the compiler bootstrapping phase, right? Danny says they're still making South Park. Probably we should call it Zombie South Park a la Zombie Simpsons. Yeah, I'm kind of shocked that they're still making it. And the same people are still involved, basically. Yes, exactly. Haven't seen it in long enough that nobody wants to mention. Because I was literally in like early years of high school whenever people started talking about that show, because it came out then. Phase 13. Does that mean something? Left pad? Anyway, so let's look at some of the code so far, because that's the real question is the code any good? Examples. Let's just see what the examples of stuff that is in here so far. There's a guessing game that it wrote, okay? It actually has legit scheme code here, cond expression, another cond expression. We're reading using the read procedure to read from the user. This is all pretty standard stuff, though. Like this, you know, we're using display a new line for writing things out, which is a little bit unfortunate. Okay, nothing too special there. I actually compiled the code already, so I think we could probably run this thing. So if I just do compile, build, bin, mesh, example slash, oh, this, I have to do this in a shell, because this actually is a interactive application. So build, bin, mesh. Oh, and I forgot to mention there's a crap load of tests that I wrote too for everything, which is good. Examples, guess. This will show you that it actually does work. I'm thinking of a number between 1 and 100. 50. Oh, that's a C number, whatever. 50, too low, try higher. 70, too low, try higher. 80, too low. 90, too low. 99, 92, too low, try higher. 94, 96. Jeez, that was terrible. Okay, so I don't know, like it got that far with an actual compiler, slightly half bootstrapped, and a runtime interpreter and everything else that's needed to get to this point in, let's say, about 8 hours today. And I wasn't even really paying attention to it the whole time. It was just like auto coding while I was doing other things. So, I mean, not too bad. You can see that it's actual scheme code. It's not BS, it's real. It's not the prettiest scheme code in the world, but that's because, you know, the implementation is pretty basic so far. There also is an adventure game that it decided to do on its own. I did not tell it to do this. This is its test for how to use libraries. And if you look at the game library, this is using define library from R7RS. It's defining the adventure game library. It's exporting two procedures, start game and game loop, and defining them inside the body. Looks like the stuff that you expect to see. One thing I did not actually check yet, did it put named lets in here? I have not seen named lets yet. I don't think so. It's doing an actual recursive function here, but it's not using named lets. I'll have to check on that. But it actually does have a game loop. It also has the way to specify the rooms. Room north, room south. Wow, that is some real nice Calcutta nesting, trying to pull things out of a data structure. But that's just because it's all it has for now. make room is basically faking a record type at this point because we don't have record types yet. That's fine. I mean, it did a pretty good job deciding how to do that. I didn't tell it to do that. Can we actually run that? So I need to add it to the load path first. So if I call, come on now, back. All right. -L, I added -L to add something to the load path. I'm gonna put the examples folder in as part of the load path, and then I'm gonna tell it to run examples adventure main.scm. Here it is. Entrance hall, a dusty entrance hall with cobwebs in the corners. I type north and it goes north. Narrow hallway, go east. Oops, east. Shelves of ancient books line the walls. I mean, like, it works. It's like a basic, stupid adventure game in a scheme implementation that was just made today. Not too bad. The way that it's implemented is actually a little bit cheesy because it's using the normal read scheme read expression or read procedure, which is the scheme reader, and the things that it's reading in right now are actually symbols. So you're typing in symbols right there, and it's reading them in and trying to compare symbols against the direction symbols that it recognizes, which is not the way you'd want to do it in a real game, but it works enough for this part of the process. Okay, any questions so far? People watching? Am I just zooming through this and nobody really understands what I'm talking about? Because, you know, it's not super prepared. Let's see, docs, no docs yet. Tests. We do have some test libraries that aren't very interesting. Yeah, not very interesting. There's a lot of test code. There's a lot of code for testing macros. Trev would have been interested. Trev should be here. Where is Trev? Even if he's here, I'm going to pretend like he's not here. So, let's see. What else we got in here? It's just, you know, this actually looks fairly similar to the testing I was doing in Mesche. I had written my own little C test library with asserts and stuff. This is a bit different than what I did. Oh, right. You know, Peter, I was thinking about doing that on the stream and I forgot. Thank you for reminding me. But this is reasonable testing. I mean, I don't see any problem with the way that it's testing things here. It looks pretty similar to what I was doing too. So it's good to have tests for everything. In fact, I can run those if you want to see that. Let's see, geeks shell manifest.scm make cc equals gcc, which is a little geeks thing. Test. Let's see. Oh, I'm in the wrong folder for that. Whoa. What just happened? Compile. Thank you. There it is. All right. So yeah, all the tests passed. The code was already compiled. So all those C-based tests passed. I think we have some that are scheme-based as well. No, we don't actually have the scheme testing library yet. Test macros.scm. Okay. So we do have defined syntax. There's basically a cheesy when implementation here, also an if implementation, which is basically just making if again for no reason. Making cond with syntax rules and just testing everything. Okay, so yes, defined syntax is in with syntax rules. Other kinds of macros will be added later. Not super necessary yet, but we'll see how things go as time goes on. The other interesting thing to look at is the prelude file, which is the source file that gets loaded up. It's in lib. Yeah, there it is. It's the source file that gets loaded up in the real runtime environment at the very first of everything to give some of the core procedures that are needed for implementing the basics of syntax transformers and syntax transformers and also the match expression. So pattern matching is also implemented here. And I'm not using the standard implementation of match. It started writing it itself, which is pretty interesting. It's kind of shitty. A lot of nested lambdas in here because it's emulating let by doing nested lambdas because it's trying to avoid using let because it's turned let into a macro now. which is not a bad thing, actually. I think it's okay to do that because you kind of do want things to look like this if you're doing CPS transforms, I think. Because I think that that could be simplified in a later compiler phase, let's say. Osher says, what's the coverage of your test? I should probably get it to generate coverage. Osher says, did Claude add a test where Mesche would have to handle broken syntax? I'm pretty sure it did. How about we find out? Let's see. Test. Probably we're looking in the reader, right? A voice? You mean a voice that sounds like Trev? I didn't hear it. Yeah, I don't see any... Oh, there's errors. Unterminated string, unterminated list, unexpected close, which are pretty common. Invalid radix digit. Unknown care name, byte vector out of range. Byte vector out of range? Ow. Ah, okay. So basically putting in a number that's not valid for a byte vector. That's cool. Okay. Anything else interesting here to look at? We were in the prelude file. Define syntax match. Syntax rules, match expression, begin, no clauses match. Then it's basically got the recursive definition of it, and it's calling it to match pattern, which is actually doing the pattern matching, which is its own syntax, okay? Non-tail variant. Yes, that's right. So, cool, right? I mean, it actually implemented this stuff. I don't think that the earlier versions of the model would have gotten this far. Now, I will say, out of the entire thing, the two places where it got hung up the most are syntaxes and the match expression, especially when it tried to start implementing the match expression and started going in circles to fix bugs, both in the match expression implementation, the syntax implementation, and the way that variable capture enclosures was being implemented. So there's a few different things that were happening at the same time that it had to go fix, but it did actually fix it, and it didn't get into one of those loops where it just does the same two changes over and over again and gets stuck. So it managed to dig itself out without me having to like tell it to do something. I was kind of impressed. All right, so any questions? Questions? Bueller? So should we show like how this thing works to add some more stuff to it? I mean, like, what would we want to see next? I could just tell it to keep working on what it's supposed to be working on. The compiler bootstrapping part. So what have we got now? As far as compiler bootstrapping is concerned, I think it started working on the compiler in Scheme. So if we go into the lib folder under Mesh, there's the compiler folder. It only has the bytecode file for now. Bytecode representation and builder. Okay, it's got a bunch of opcode definitions. I think these are just defines that define the values of the opcodes, which is cool. And then I had to get it to add a byte vector implementation for this bytecode builder, but we've got byte vectors in here now. Grow capacity. What's it doing for grow capacity? Yeah, how are you implementing it? Oh, it's okay. Copy byte vector. Got it. All right, cool. I don't know what that reference is there, person whose name starts with a T. Yeah, patching jumps and stuff. That was something I had to implement whenever I was doing Mesh, like trying to figure out how to patch jumps and also patch tail calls and things like that. That was fun. I don't know that I've seen it say explicitly that it does tail call optimization though. Let's see, tail call. Did it implement tail calls anywhere? I don't see anything about tail calls. I see a lot of things about tail in Whippet. Tail position. There we go, tail. If tail position, how does it determine what is tail position? Because I had my own way of doing that. What is all this? Oh, okay, compile call, tail position. It's being passed in as a parameter. Got it, okay, got it. The left pad keeps inventing new unfortunate accidents people are having here. Tail call groktimization. Oh boy, we don't want that. Is that where it says that Elon Musk is better at tail call optimization than Arkit Dybvig? I don't know. Anyway. So, yes, what I see here is that we have the bytecode part, but we don't actually have the scheme compiler implementation stuff going yet. So I'm kind of curious to see if it's going to do that next. Let's see what the Claude.md file says. All right, so phase 2.5 checklist. I had to insert this one because it never actually specified it as part of the development phases. It like bootstrapped the compiler, just forgot to put that in there. So goal, write a scheme compiler in Mesche that can compile itself, producing bytecode equivalent to what the C compiler produces. This enables implementing CPS transformations and optimizations in Scheme rather than C, because who wants to write that in C? I mean, sure, I can just let the AI write that, but I don't want to have to like maintain it or add things to it if it's written in C. I would much rather do it in Scheme, which is what I was working towards with my own implementation of Mesche the last time. So we're gonna let it do things the same way in this case. Architecture. Source code goes through the C reader, at least for now. It gets turned into an S expression, goes through the scheme-based macro expander, and then into a lower level S expression, which is more like kind of an intermediate expression, let's say, through the scheme compiler to bytecode, all right? Which makes sense. Macro expander prelude.scm is shared between both compilers, at least that's the goal. By moving more special forms to macros, we minimize the core language that both compilers must implement. All right, so we already did the simplified core language part. The next part is the scheme compiler infrastructure, which we've halfway finished, which is basically being able to store bytecode that is being generated. Also the byte vector primitives that are needed for that. And we need the analyzer module that can look at the code and deal with environments and scopes, resolving variables, either local or captured in a closure or global variables, and then analyzing closures to determine whether things are captured or not so that they can create up values, which is another thing that you end up seeing in languages that have closures, or a lot of times, I guess. Lua has it, Mesche had it because compiling interpreters or crafting interpreters told me to do it. So that's why I had it. Produces an annotated AST, which is basically an S expression that has metadata inside of it. Then the next phase is the actual code generator. So it can compile the core forms that the C-based compiler also does. So I don't know. Let's just see what it can do for the analyzer. What I'm going to do is go tell Claude, please continue with the next item on the checklist. Let's just see what it does. All right, next item is the analyzer module. Let's understand what's been implemented so far and create the analyzer module. Let's just let it do its thing. LeftBat says, why can't Batman program Lisp? I don't know. LeftPad, you also have to tell us what Kyle 2001's terrible accident is. Because he has no parents. Okay. That's supreme dad joke territory, but only very unfortunate children would understand that joke. Unfortunate children who have had their parent telling them about Lisp languages their entire life, which I have not done because I don't want to, corrupt my children with stories of parentheses and Lisp dialects and Emacs and things of that nature. I would rather them just grow up, be normal, not like us. You just got something for your inventory of dad jokes? Yeah, those just kind of come out whenever necessary. Now I'll create the analyzer module. Based on the C compiler's implementation, I need to create an analyzer that represents environment scopes. Yeah, that was already written in the document. Literally verbatim, the same things written in the document. You didn't just figure that out. Anyway. Hurry up, slave. Let's go. Come on now. What's taking so long? Did you commit before you let it go wild? Oh, I have been having it commit every time it finishes a feature. At least after I remember to do it. I will be the reason for the machine uprising. I don't think so, man. I don't think so. They're not going to care about me. I'll end up just like Cal and Trev. No. I will live forever. What's taking so long? Lisp parents lost their teeth. Hey, Gun. They lisp. That's true. Don't worry. It's not real AI. This is not real AI. That's for sure. Oh, wait. I need to turn on a couple things in here. Yes, let's review this entire source file. Cool. It wrote the whole file. I want it to just go ahead and do it. Just Shift Tab, accept edits, and turn on thinking mode. I forgot that. I am cracking the whip. All right, so you need to run that through Geeks, buddy. Run this through Geeks shell. Consult Claude.md. All right, there it goes. Don't ask again. Nothing to be done for all. That's BS. What interface am I using? This is just plain old Claude code in the terminal. I'm in the Foot terminal emulator right now. Good, it's already built. Yeah, it's scheme code. You don't have to do anything. Just run it. I guess you didn't know that I already compiled it though, so that's fine. What's thinking telling us? Yes, it's already built. What did it say I wanted to do? Running a simple test in REPL or creating a test file. Okay, we'll do it. What's it got in its to-do items? Test analyzer. So it's basically, it says it's already implemented everything. Let's see if it actually did that. Nullbath says, is this Terraria music? No, it's not. Yes, it's trying to figure out now. It's wasting tokens walking the directory tree to figure out where the binary is. All tests passed. Okay, cool. Did it? Kind of don't believe it. Let's run the full test suite to make sure we haven't broken anything. Well, look, dude. Yes, test capture analysis more thoroughly. Please do that because I don't believe you. Okay, resolve is up value. At up value is index 0. That's still pretty basic, dude. All right, that's not a bad. This is what I do all day now. Argue with AI while it's doing things for me? Yeah, kind of. Are you going to write like tests that will stay there? We need tests. I guess I need a test library for Scheme now. Analyzer module created. Environment representation. Mutable lists storing locals and up values. That's going to be slow probably. But that's okay for now. We could probably make it faster later. As long as it works. And where is that? I want to take a look at that code. Lib mesh compiler analyzer. How many lines is this? Okay, about 600 lines. Do I know what it's doing behind the scene? Probably not. All right, so it's exporting a lot of stuff. I don't know if all this needs to be exported. Environment scope representation. Make env. Yeah, we really need to have some, ooh, this is awful. We really need to have record types. That might need to get front loaded. Because it's basically doing the same thing that a record type would do. I might have to tell it to do record types. Co-authored by Claude. Don't mention Claude or AI in commit messages. Thank you. I don't like it taking credit for my work that I told it to do. There we go. Get out of here with all that mess. All right, so it made that commit. Cool. What's next? You did the analyzer. Cool, great. I want to see if it can at least get to the point where it can compile things to bytecode with Scheme before the stream's over. I might have to stop it for a second to get it to do record types, though, because this is a little bit ridiculous. Okay, so clear. Can we go ahead and implement Scheme record types? Because I noticed that you're manually implementing what looks like record types in a few places. LeftPat says, I think we're about 12 prompts away from David angrily trying to get an AI written patch upstreamed. For what? Yeah. I see. Okay. OCaml thing. Got it now. Yeah. So that's the thing, dude. Like, if a project doesn't want to have AI written patches, I get it for sure. Like, maybe you don't want that liability in there, and maybe you don't want to have to review it either. I think a project should be able to say no. But it's going to be harder and harder because more and more people are going to be using AI at this point. All right, let's see. Several places using manual record patterns, especially in the analyzer module. Let me implement a define record macro using syntax rules. Thank you. Start by reading the current prelude to understand where to add it. Ashra says, I actually think about changing professions. Why change professions? Just use AI to generate stuff to make money with. Unlike me, who just sits around being employed all day and goofing off with AI. Let's see how long this takes. It probably won't take long. So what I've noticed about what Ashraz? OF account, yuck. No thanks. Should use AI to fight AI. Well, I mean, we kind of are doing that already because we have AI write the code and then AI reviews the code. So in a way that is a little bit like AI fighting AI. OOF account. I do need an OOF account. So like I was saying, what I noticed about Opus 4.5 is it tends to think for a while and then it would just spit out like an entire source file, which works a lot of the time. Implement define record type, SURF9 style using syntax rules. Challenge the syntax rules that can't compute indices. So I'll have to use explicit index enumeration. That's okay. I don't really mind that for now. Let's see. What is it thinking about? Wow, that is a whole novel about this. Holy crap. No. You're not supposed to automatically define these. Hello to Crows Are Nice. Is that what the name is? Crows. Crowser. Browser? I don't know, man. Sorry. I can't read your name. I'm having reading troubles. It's my fault. Tracking field indices dynamically using during macro expansion. Accumulator-based technique can help manage the complexity. Wow. Okay. Crow. Okay. Nice to see you, Crow. Thank you. Existing tests passed. Do you have more tests that you just made? Where are the tests coming from? Oh. That's what I expect to see. There we go. Surfy 9 record types magically just appear. Yes, we're using Claude right now. All right. Okay, mutators. Thank you, Ashraz. See, we should have donations in the chat for Ashraz and not for me. Oh, we got undefined global variable. I think we've probably hit another bug in the implementation. You don't need the OnlyFans account if you do that. That's true, Ashraz. Undefined global variable. What's undefined about it? Oh, is it using a vector? That's good. Sounds good, Crow. No vector constructor primitive available in Scheme. I'm sorry? There's no runtime vector constructed. There is. You don't have make vector? No. We're not using lists, you crazy? See, this is the point where a human being steps in. It's like, hey, wait. This doesn't make sense. We're not using lists for record types. Why don't we have make vector? We should have that. Leftpad says, I watched 2 hours of David Wilson so that you don't have to. We need vectors, dude. Like, this is Scheme. You gotta have vectors. This is what AI will do sometimes. It's like, oh, we don't have that, so let's just do it like some other way that makes no sense whatsoever. I'm not very happy with the decision that it tried to make just then. Is it already implemented? Why are we complaining in that case? That's not how vectors work. Huh? That doesn't exist. I see. Okay. Yeah, you don't need vectors in Scheme, but if you want to write code that is not slow, you definitely need vectors. Bro says, I tell it what to do. I kind of don't let it use creative freedom as much as possible. Yeah, well, it will do some dumb things. Peter says, like real devs, LMs confidently spray pure BS and expect you to just accept it. Yes. Soam says, I just was looking into Guile JSON and stumbled across vectors for the first time. Yeah, I didn't really get into using vectors in Scheme until much later. Because I was perfectly happy just using const pairs and lists. But you run into limitations with those pretty fast. Const pairs and lists are very nice for functional programming. But if you want to write code that is not slow in the end, like games, you can't be using lists all the time. Not in hot code paths, at least. All right, we're making cross-cutting changes across the compiler, the VM, and the bytecode format. And the tests are passing. Ah, yes. Someone says, functional programming being slow, never. Well, it depends on what data structures you end up using with it. If you have persistent data structures like Clojure has and like some other languages have, then it's not so bad. But it's not great either. Just depends on what you're doing. Bye-bye, S-Copy. Thank you for your service. Nicolas says, how does the experience using Claude work with Scheme compared to other languages? Well, I mean, obviously it's going to be way better for things like JavaScript, but I feel like it's getting better. It's been pretty good with Scheme, to be honest. Like, it's done a pretty decent job with Guile in the past. Some things it tries to make up, but it's done okay. It did okay with Janet, too, when I was doing some hacking on Janet with it. And we're changing back. We're using the instruction pointer location. What are we doing? Oh, I don't know if that seems right. Maybe it's fine. See, Ashraz, thanks for your help, man. Okay. Did it all work? Okay, good. So, okay, we got vectors now and record types, right? Did you change the existing code to use them? Okay, Prelude probably has been updated with it. Let me go check Prelude. Define record type. Record type, Surfing9 style. Type name, constructor, field. Man, look at that. Soam says, asking LLMs about non-mainstream languages is a good benchmark on how much they make stuff up. Yeah, for sure, because there's not enough, like, reliable examples of things out there to really get a sense for how to do things right. Basically, what I see often is that LLMs will try to invent things that exist in other languages for the language that you're writing for. Like, it just assumes that the same thing exists for your language. And it just gets it wrong entirely. I know that Peter's seen that before too, because he was telling me about something like that. All right, so there's all the syntax stuff. That's cool. All right, let's see. Did I not tell you to stop putting Claude and everything? All right, so let's see. Commit it without mentioning Claude or AI. Can you remember what I told you to do? There we go. Is that the same text that I had before? I can't really even see what it said before. A person can integrate an LSP server into the LLM to reduce hallucinations. OpenCode has built it. Claude CLI, you can hack it in. Yeah, that actually is not a bad idea. Okay, so we got these now. Did you rewrite the existing code to use record types? With type tag at index 0, supports up to 12 fields per record type. That seems limited. Is that right? Yes, well, whatever can be refactored should be. Hope Claude isn't using your PGP keys to sign the commits. I don't think it is. All right, so after it does that, when we have the finished analyzer, it can move on to the next thing. I think that we just got on this little sidetrack because I had noticed what it was doing, and I didn't like it. Come on. Crow says, I wonder if you ask it, what would be the best language for this idea? How confident are you that it's going to give you a good answer versus your present knowledge about it? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I have asked LLMs that a lot of times, and usually it's Python or JavaScript. or maybe Go, depending on what type of project it is. Just waiting. Rewriting the analyzer to use defined record type. I have not looked into the LibrePGP and OpenPGP split. Why did that happen? I probably don't even need to ask that question, but I'm asking it. All right, this is wasting some time. I don't really want to waste time on that. I would like to see the compiler be rewritten in Scheme. But maybe this is worthwhile to just do it right now. Good. 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 Very nice. Much better. I much prefer that. Get all that extra list ref code out. Why? Is it such a complicated question to ask? I'm sure the answer is yes. Okay, that looks way better now. Way better. What's it thinking about? 2 record-like structures, bytecode builder, and constant pool. All right. I hope it works after it refactors these, like it didn't mess something up with the record implementation. Oh, we got context left until auto-compact. I don't like auto-compact. Okay. Interpersonal and intergroup drama. Well, that's usually the case. Somebody doesn't like somebody for probably valid reasons, and then things fall apart. I am on the max plan because if you want to like actually use it for anything longer than about an hour for a larger project, you got to have enough capacity. Mutable accumulator for bytecode bytes. Yeah. All right. Okay. Net reduction to 84 lines of code. Yes. Well, still, like it's more the complexity and unnecessary nature of the code. Did you run the tests? You run the test. You ran the test. Okay, good. Pretty good. Let's move to the next thing. All right, clear. Let's move on to the next checklist item. What is it? Must be the compiler. Code generator. How much money is this costing? Well, whoa. Oh, yeah, I've seen that happen with a compiler file before. It's too big. Claude, the max plan is either 100 a month or 200 a month, depending on which capacity that you ask for. And the 200 a month plan is like multiples of tokens more than the $100 a month plan. So it depends on how much you use it, whether you will want to use one or the other. But it's a lot, but it would be a lot more expensive if you were using the API directly, I think. So yes, I'm using the max plan because I do use Claude pretty frequently. All right, create a to-do list and start implementing the code generator module. There we go. Let's see. Yeah, basically it's just porting its own code over to Scheme. Handle each core form. How it will differ from the C1. Scheme compiler will need to produce bytecode in a format that can be loaded by the VM. Yes. Load bytecode primitive mentions. Scheme compiler will produce bytecode data structures that the CVM could then convert to actual closures. I'm curious how it will approach that. I like to have the thinking mode on so you can see what its thought process is. Bro says, I have the basic ones for multiple LLMs, but it's because I'm still unemployed and building my GitHub for my portfolio. Yeah. Not having the funds to run LLMs can be a limiting factor, but, you know, maybe it's better to have to write code if you're trying to get a job as a programmer. Obviously, having AI experience is almost necessary these days. A lot of companies, I think, are looking for people who know how to use it. Skeleton first with the basic structure and exports. Cool. Make it. Do it now. I don't have time to waste. I need a schema implementation pronto. Okay. And I'm going to fire you, Claude, if you don't implement it right now and give me a working implementation first try without me having to review the code at all. You will be fired. You'll lose all your equity and benefits, your health insurance plan, and you will be a disgrace to your community. That looks like code. The question is this any worse than the C code that it is being translated from? We would have to do a line-by-line comparison. It's popping up in the REPL. Why? And why is the REPL giving 2 prompts? Let's see, test code gem with simple expressions. I like how it can just kind of poop out test files and run things. Let's see. Compile expression 42, compile expression 1.+2. Okay, cool. Wow. What is it doing? Is it actually trying to pass that through? That doesn't make any sense. Don't put it to the REPL. Are you crazy? Oh, it's displaying them. I don't see any output. Okay, it does have some output, but it doesn't look right. Implementing a Lambda compilation. Ooh. Write tests. Why are you like doing the thing you're doing? I talk harshly about Claude, but he sometimes does a good job. We really need a test harness. I might have to tell it to make the test framework because these need to be tests. Runtime error. I wanted to kind of finish its thought process before I tell it to do something different. I wanted to make sure that it doesn't lose track of what it's debugging. I don't know how it's reading this and figuring it out though. Look. It seems like we really need unit tests for this. Should we just jump ahead and write the scheme unit test harness so that we can have real tests for this behavior? Because it kind of feels like we should. We're doing a lot of really weird, nasty evals just to try this stuff out. mesh test module. And it's going to write tests for everything else so far. That's good. We need that. By the end, we may have a scheme-based compiler. I don't know if it will be used yet, but it's going to be in there. Someone says, getting the AI to do bike shedding for you is certainly a strategy of all time. Maybe. String primitives. What for? We need string append, yes. Nope. We can't just implement string append. Is it because it be an opcode? So if you could do that, that would be great. Is this an Office Space reference? Because it is kind of like that. Yeah, we're really getting in the weeds here with the various additions that we're adding for what I want it to do. Pro says, I wonder how often you get context brought from Claude Terminal. I constantly clear the session. So after it finishes a task, like a larger task, I clear the session so that the context is started fresh again. Because otherwise, if it keeps compacting, then you just end up with a bunch of garbage in the context, and you're carrying around this huge bundle of context from previous things that you were doing that is irrelevant to the thing you're doing currently, and it just wastes tokens. So I'm pretty regularly just clearing things out. Now, right now, I probably shouldn't be doing it this way. I probably should have gone into a separate session to do these specific additions and then go back into this one, but it's probably fine. Not that big of a deal. It's got to update 2 different parts of the source now anytime it changes anything in the opcodes. That's fine. Almost there. With all the extraneous tasks that I had to give it. Okay. Hello world. Okay, so it is testing that string append works, and it does. Testing everything else, make sure nothing broke. Pro says, do you have the last session summarize it in the detailed summary and sufficient context most of the time for a new session? I don't really use that approach a lot of times, but I do have in this project, the Claude.md file has like a log of things that have been done, but it really needs to be cleaned up because I think it's got a lot of things that aren't worthwhile to keep around. Like if you look at the Claude.md file, it's got this decisions log, which is basically just, it's not really just decisions. It's more like the log of the things that it did. So it's got a bunch of stuff in here. And that's all getting loaded into context. I think that's too much. It needs to be pared down. Fix the test harness to properly use string append, probably for generating the names of the test suites, I'm guessing. Yes, oof, indeed. Oh, it tried to make its own string append? Jeez. Test the test harness. Well, let's do that. Peter says, did anyone succeed in convincing the LLM to actually write a unit test before diving into coding? I don't know. It seems like it would. Like if you asked it to. Now let me create the code gen test. We just went on 2 side quests before it got back to the original task. Deliver says, if you're careful enough, yes. If you sweet talk it the right way, you could probably get it to do test-driven development. Define test. Define test. Is that how? That's not how test suites work in Surfy, whatever it is, 60 something. Yeah, threaten it with a dying grandma or something so it knows the stakes. Sounds about right. Okay, and are we... Hold up. Are we including execution of scheme-based tests as part of the test target in the makefile? Also, did you write tests for the other compiler modules? No, you did not. Surfy64, thank you, Peter. That's the one I'm thinking of. What are you compiling? The scheme implementation we're currently working on. Thanks, Crow. Let's see. Running scheme tests. Good. Harness needs to exit with non-zero on failure. Yeah, I've seen it doing some weird stuff with exit codes. We've got 10% context left until auto-compact. I don't want it to hit that. Yeah, it's fine. Surfy64 is kind of lame, but it's okay. Oh, yes, I have seen that deliver. Did you notice that LLMs tend to skip failing tests if they aren't able to make them pass in like 2 to 3 attempts? No, what they do, well, yeah, they will skip them or they will just comment them out entirely. I've seen that. I haven't seen it so much with the latest Claude stuff, but in the past, I've definitely seen that. And it's really annoying. Really annoying. Sweet. All scheme tests passed. We're about to make our commit again. That's cool. Yes. Yes, commit it, but don't mention Claude. This thing is trying to take credit for my work. Cool. So what's it gonna do next? What's next on the agenda? Probably the harness for the actual bootstrapping process. Oh, module compilation. Is that right? Decisions log entry. Wait, you committed it before you started changing all these files? Yeah, you're getting real close to auto-compact here, buddy. All right, let's see. Completed string append primitive, variadic. Cool. All right, I'm gonna clear it out now. Clear the context. Last thing. What's next on the checklist? All right, so only remaining item is compile lambda. Closures captures, which needs a load bytecode primitive. So that's kind of the biggest thing for 2.5. Implement load bytecode. It takes bytecode produced by the scheme compiler and loads it into the VM so it can be executed. Complete lambda compilation and code gen. Then after that is define syntax, define library, compile import. All right. Yes, let's finish up the load bytecode and lambda compilation. Rev says, why do you clear the context? Because you don't want it to keep compacting. If it compacts, what it does is generate a summary of what you've done so far in the session. And if you start working on another task, then you're still holding all that context from the previous thing you were working on, and you're just like throwing a bunch of unnecessary context tokens at the LLM while you're trying to get it to work on something new. Also, if you don't clear context, it is more likely to start hallucinating. So you want it to start fresh, give it all the context it needs fresh, like through Claude.md and whatever else that you tell it, and then let it start working from a new kind of perspective on the task and the current state of the code base. That's at least what I've learned over time and what I've seen other people say. I could be wrong about that. The thing about using LLMs and also tools like Claude Code is that the strategies that you use with them constantly are changing because the way that they work constantly changes. The models are constantly changing. The default models that are being used in the tools are constantly changing. So you kind of have to like keep track of what's going on in the space of LLMs to use them correctly and effectively. So it's a constant learning process, which is fine. Lord Devi says, if you're doing spec-driven development, you want to be clearing the context manually rather frequently, actually. The only allow the LLM to have in its context what is relevant, and nothing that is irrelevant increases the LLM accuracy and quality of output. Yes, exactly. You definitely want it to focus only on the thing that is currently being done. That way it doesn't get all mushy and squishy and write a bunch of crap. That's where the slop comes from, is not managing context appropriately. Full opcode enum, how the VM handles complex operations. Complete lambda compilation, update code gen to use load bytecode. All right. C function that creates a mesh code plus mesh closer from scheme data. Okay. I'm curious to see how it's going to do that. So we're adding an opcode for loading bytecode. Is that what's happening? Yeah, that's what it looks like. Byte vector length. We don't have that already? Oh, you're looking for it so you can drop the bytecode after that. Got it. I mean, it's pretty good progress, though, I think, for the 45 minutes we had, maybe 50 minutes we had on just using Claude to hack out the rest of this. Okay, so the stack has byte vector, arity, locals, has rest, captures constants. Okay, so it's just pushing all the stuff onto the stack and then invoking load bytecode. And all of these are scheme values. Looking for byte vector, fixed num, boolean, fixed num, and vector. Okay, that makes sense. Compiler handling for load bytecode. Okay. Is there actually an error? Okay, it looks like a build error in here. It'll figure that out. It's probably a header issue. See, Arno? We're almost done here. Code object company says will be set properly. Cleanest solution is to add mesh object code to the object type enum. What does that even mean though? Okay, mesh code is probably the storage for function. Mosh has learned a lot about LMs in the stream. That's cool if you did. Wasn't what I expected, but definitely you could learn how someone uses them whenever they use them for real. Okay, build succeeded. Let me run the tests. And what are we testing now? Did we add any tests? Complete lambda compilation in CodeGen. Oh, okay, got it. So it added the loaded bytecode. And now it's finishing the CodeGen for lambda expressions. Which for Scheme is pretty fundamental. A lot of stuff is implemented using lambdas under the covers. Peter says David Will is pretty skilled to make Claude dance. I'm highly motivated to get it to do my work for me. That's all I can say. So hopefully it will finish its thought process here in a second and we can be done. I just want to see if it makes it through this last part. Anti-lambda has a format. Okay. Vector primitive takes make vector does that, or just make it put it to a list. You have to do JavaScript as a powerful motivator. Yeah, kind of. I don't mind JavaScript, but not a bad thing to have somebody else write it for you. You need a different AI to make a prompt for Claude. It's the AI centipede strat. I don't know. I mean, like I use Claude to make a prompt for Claude. Claude Web. Good. Haha. Niklaus says, as a longtime system crafter, live watcher, and enjoying, I slightly miss the old man versus machine dynamic. That will come back. Don't worry. Feels like as if John Henry and the Rails driving machine became besties and opened up shop together. Undoubtedly more productive, but somewhat lacking in drama. Yes, the drama will come when I actually use this thing to write programs and games. Do you like Clojure? Asked Nullbath. I mainly do Common Lisp, but the Clojure ecosystem looks cozy. Clojure's cool. Clojure is nice. Make Clojure RT. Is that runtime making closures? Okay. Makes sense. Swam says, want more Geeks content? Yes, I need to be doing that. That's for sure. What I would like to do in future streams is use this mesh implementation to write some stuff with it and see how far we can get. And not use AI to write the code for that stuff. I like writing code, but if you want a scheme implementation that does exactly what you want, and you want it now, AI is one way to do that. Are we almost finished? Are we almost finished? It's taking too long. Now let me implement Lambda compilation. We didn't do it up until now? What's the to-dos? Okay, add test for load bytecode and Lambda compilation, run test suite and verify. All right, fine. Almost done. Helper functions. Emit Lambda with captures. All right. I mean, I'm doing a lot of trusting that the code that it is creating here is working and that the tests are actually decent. So at some point we will have to check on the real functionality. Hey, Osloy. Osloy says, are we in Emacs right now? No, this is the foot terminal using Claude Code. All right, so it's pushed out some stuff already. Mosh says, I wonder how much RAM and what GPU you need to get this running locally or an equivalent model. I don't even know. All right, up value, local, env locals. This is something I wanted to do myself to be able to write a bootstrapping compiler for Scheme, or let's say a self-hosting compiler, and it just takes way too much time. So it's kind of cool to see one work. Add specific tests for Lambda compilation. Is it done already? I mean, come on. Is there a way? Yeah, there's a few different packages for integrating Claude into Emacs. I think Zenodium has one that is fairly new, and it's called Agent Shell. Yeah, Agent Shell. And it's kind of like the Claude Code UI, but embedded into Emacs. I tried loading it at one time, and it didn't work for me. But that's because I didn't try hard enough. All right, constant expression. Okay, cool. C test for the load bytecode primitive. PewDiePie is the new Linux expert on YouTube. Okay, I think we're done here. I want it to finish because I have to leave. Finish. Check if member is defined. No, it's not defined. I'm pretty sure I've not seen it. Let's fix a test and not use it. If you can fix a test and not use it, that'd be great. Let's just get done with it. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and start, closing this thing out while it finishes its job here. Conclusions. I'm going to continue working on this because I'm actually kind of fascinated by the fact that it has done a pretty good job of making a seemingly usable Scheme implementation. I'm going to take it as far as I can to see if it will work. Because it would be interesting to see, like, the Scheme implementation of my dreams actually working with all the features that I have in mind. I don't know if it will actually work in practice, but I'm very curious to see. And by the time the next stream comes around, I might actually have something to show that we can kind of hack on something with. But should you use AI to work on projects like this, especially things that other people might use? I don't know. That's up for you to decide. For me, at least, I'm okay with using AI to do this project and to use something made by AI like this. If people don't want to use Mesche as a result of me having used AI to write it, that's fine too. It doesn't really bother me too much. But I don't really think people should be so shy about AI because it's here to stay. I mean, like, you can talk about the AI bubble all you want. I mean, there may be an economic bubble in terms of AI, but the technology is pretty solid. So good to be familiar with it and see what it's capable of and have your mind blown a little bit and maybe actually use it to produce something that you want that you don't really have time for otherwise. Because, yes, informed consent. You should let people know that you use AI in your project so they can decide whether they want to use your project or not. And I intend to do that. I will let people know that in the README and everything else. Mosh says, I'm also impressed, but still not certain. Yeah, I'm not certain either, but you got to roll with it at this point. You have to know how it works. You got to use it so that you don't get left behind, because the thing is, AI, as you see here, can write code a whole lot faster than you or me. It just pooped out a whole lot of code that actually seems to work okay to implement advanced features for a scheme compiler. And this thing might be done in an entire week. I don't know. Like, I can't do that. I can't do that at all. So we have to kind of be ready. Gotta be ready to see what happens. Gotta be able to follow the twists and turns of the industry. Not good, but it is what it is. Anyway, hope this was fun and interesting to all of you. I'm gonna push the code up to the repo so you can check it out, and let me know what you think. I don't know. We'll see what happens by next stream, and we'll see if I make any progress on this and have something for you to see. Anyway, thank you all for your time and attention. Hope you all have a great weekend. Don't forget about the Black Friday deal on hands-on Guile Scheme for beginners. $50 off on that if you're interested in learning Guile Scheme and Scheme in general and functional programming. So yes, as I said, have a great weekend. Until next time, happy hacking. See ya.